All right, and welcome to the first, more formal coverage related to the newest book from Imperialis, as it says, The Great Slaughter. Now, we did a live stream the other night where I was painting some things. We made some discussions about different pieces. In case anyone doesn't want to go back and listen to almost 2-hour video to hear thoughts on certain things, I wanted to go through and make this and just discuss different aspects. Now, I'm not going to do all the book at once because, one, I think it's a bit longer, and two, I want to be able to do a little more depth in that. So, I'm not going to show the inside of the book. The reason why, I don't know if GW cares about that, and I'm not looking for, as we start to get more popular, suddenly they look at us. I do have some slides made of different pieces. We have some builders we're going to look at, all those sorts of things, and I'll talk through everything. But I don't know if they care about that. My guess is people who do it have special permission or just do it anyway. I'm not one of those types. But what we're going to do in this very first video is we're going to talk Titans, so particularly Titan Death. Now, if you went through this book leads you through a couple different things. They give you some brand new units, which you'll see a different video where we talk about all of that. They tell you how you can do something they said you weren't going to be able to do, which play the game just with Titans. So they do go through all the rules for that. They give you some missions for it, all of that. They give you different ways to play campaigns. Really, they have 2 campaigns, or you can play the Nikron campaign. Nikron, if I'm saying that, or Nikon. I'm not sure the exact correct way. Nikron is probably the right pronunciation, to give you a special mission for that, how you could do a campaign of that. So they give you quite a bit of good things in this book. So what I wanted to start with then, because the most recent battle report second most recent battle report you would have seen at this point was when Dan and I went through and we just played with Titans. At that moment, we were kind of told, like, you weren't going to be able to do Titans for a while. Then they came out and said, hey, when this book drops, you'll be able to do Titans. But we recorded a little bit before we knew all the information here. So part of this is to discuss what they did, the differences, what we saw, our thoughts on it, and what I think overall, as well as one of the big problems I think it has. Probably 2 problems. One will come up early. The one will come up pretty late. So let's go through and take a look at what they've done for this. So keep in mind, normally the way this works, when you're building your army, 30% can be all these supports, and one of the support is Titan Legions or Knights, all those sorts of things. So normally that's what happens. When you're running it as Titans, you can just bring Titans. That can just be your game. So let's take a look at it then. All right. There's some overall rules differences between playing a game with just Titans versus a standard Imperialis game where Titans are one of the support units. Potentially multiple formations of them if you have the points, but essentially as supports. Some of the biggest differences, one, is the coordinated fire. Normally, if you look in the main rulebook, when you are shooting your Titan, the receiving player is the one who determines the order that the damage or the weapons are going to essentially go off. So you would fire all your weapons, and I would say, okay, I'm going to be taking the sun killers first, then I'm going to be taking, whatever it may be, your missiles, and then whatever else you got. They do it differently now. If you're just playing Titans, the controlling player chooses weapon order, and much like in Titanicus, which this is still not Titanicus, although the way they changed it made it a little bit closer in certain ways, that now you're choosing a weapon, firing it, resolving it, then going to the next weapon. So you don't know what's going to happen until you've already taken those results one at a time. One of the biggest issues we found in our game was that even in there, you have some void shields compared to Titanicus. In Titanicus, you get rolls for them. They're usually on like 3s, then the 4s, then the 5s. As you lose void shields, it's less of a save. But you have a save. You have a shot at these multi-shot weapons, not just immediately removing everything you have. That doesn't really happen here. So what they did is void shields now have a 5-up save. So you're looking at Titans having between 2 to about 6. I think the big ones are. I think Reavers are 4. Warlords are, I believe, 6. The other ones might be even more. Let me just take a look. It's been a little bit. Warbringers are 6. Yeah, Reavers are 4. Warlords are 4. That's just another Warlord. The Sinister is also the 6. Sorry, Warlords are 6 if I said 4. My apologies. And the War Masters are 12. So War Master variants. But now you actually have a save. That makes the War Master even better than it already was. That's probably one of the problems in this game, is that the War Master, not the heavy battle titan, not the Iconoclast. I don't think the Iconoclast is the problem. But it also helps for the other ones that, like, a Warhound has 2 shields. At the end of the day, that's not enough to do much of anything. Now, at least a 5-up save, you might be able to soak some of those more damaging shots. One of the other changes that is focused ire. There's no split firing unless you're shooting at only knights. So again, remember, this is only Titan v Titan battles, or Titan Knights / Titan Knight battles. So you have to fire all at one particular thing. Now, for their actual wording on this, you cannot use the split fire rule unless every weapon is that. Keep in mind, you're firing out of formation. So these Titans are in formations. So that does mean, and one of the oddities of this, probably maybe a little bit of a problem, one of the oddities of this is if you take Warhounds in groups, they all act together. They have to stay in coherency. They have to stay within 2 inches, all of that. But since you're firing out of formation, if you take one down, you may then fire at the next one. Split fire is what lets you fire at different formations. So you could still actually kill multiple of these guys. Engine killer. So Titan's biggest thing is that they are multi-wound. And in this game, having multiple wounds is quite a big thing. When you're looking at regular stuff, you don't have any multiple wounds, really, honestly, whatsoever. Or very, very little, maybe 2. So something with 2 wounds is actually rather survivable in the base game. But you are looking at some of these Titans with, you're looking at 4 for Warhound levels, you're looking at 5 for Reaver types, you're looking at 6 for Warlords, and 7 for War Masters. Which means Engine Killer becomes a lot bigger, because you have Engine Killer, say 2 or 3, or certain options like Bellicosas, I believe is like an Engine Killer 4, if memory serves. Yep, Bellicosa's Engine Killer 4. That means some of these Titans, if it goes through, and a Bellicosa is -5, so it's going through. If I hit and it goes through, if you're a small enough thing, you're just gone. So Engine Killers now cost a little bit more. So you take the total value of your Engine Killers that aren't range dash. So essentially the close combat weapons don't count. But anything that shoots, it's 10 times the Engine Killer value is added to the cost of the Titan. So that means if you're carrying a Bellicosa, instead of 600 points for your Warlord, you're 640 points. It's a nice addition. I don't know if it's enough, especially when we talk about the size of games they're talking about, but it's a necessary addition. And formations, you can obviously just take all supports. That's the whole idea of doing this. So you can just take support elements. All right, let's talk about the sequence. So you determine the mission as you would normally. Afterwards, they put muster armies. So that means if you wanted, you could know what you're going to play and then put your army together. Most people are probably going to do it the other way, but you absolutely can. Terrain is D3 plus 1 per quarter. Vary it up. Keep in mind that these things don't care about obstacles. If they hit an obstacle, just remove the obstacle. Buildings, they don't, though. Buildings actually matter. You have to destroy buildings. You figure out who is going to have control of the battlefield. So essentially, who is laying down things first, all of that. You'll place your objectives. All of these missions, because we will talk about the missions, every single mission is 5 objectives. They do vary a little bit in their placement, but all of them are 5 objectives. And you'll start with whoever has control of the battlefield, of course. You'll determine secondaries. You have some secondary conditions. We'll talk about some of those secondaries in a little bit. It is the same way they do them otherwise. And some of your secondaries might have objectives. If so, you put them down for the objectives. They only count for that. They don't count for anything else whatsoever. Let me see. Yeah, as described. So yeah, you're going to roll up 2, choose 1. You'll declaring your reserves. You are allowed to keep things in reserve. You could absolutely bring things in later. I don't know in Titans if I'd want to do that. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe if I was really worried about the opponent shooting, and maybe I had someone who's a little bit, you're shooting, you'd probably want out there to start with. Maybe a close combat to kind of hold it back so it doesn't just get punked in the first turn. And you wait till, say, like turn 3 to come in when maybe you've dealt with a little bit of their shooting. They've lost a few Titans, and now you can rush up with a little bit more safety. You deploy, and then you go about and play your game. So not too much differences in that. One of the big things is claim objective. So naturally, in a normal game, Titan stuff is worth nothing. They are objective control 0. However, now, honestly, I feel this is kind of backwards. But the bigger you are, the more you're worth. So War Masters are 5. Warlord types, including the Sinister, is 4. Warbringers and Reavers are 3. The The Warhound and Dire Wolf, so Warhound style variant are 2s and Knights are 1s. When we played it, we did 10 minus your size to determine what you were worth for claiming. So that means Knights actually claimed better than bigger ones. And our thought process for that was infantry is the best thing for taking an objective in the game. They have the most, and tanks are less. It makes sense. These are guys they can maybe say get dug in, or they're actually achieving the objective. So in the game purposes, we're standing on a point. But in reality, what we're probably doing is, doing a satellite uplink, calling in coordinates of something. We're doing an action. We're not just standing there. We're not necessarily just hanging out at a building. We're there for a reason. We're, grabbing munitions from a building before it collapses or falls to the enemy hands or something. So in our mind, it made sense that the smaller ones would be better for it because maybe they have a shot at actually doing the thing that matters or all. But here they went the other way. I'm interested to see what happens in that. I do think it kind of pushes Knights out of play because in general, Knights are a little bit hard to play in this. At least that's what we found. Anything that wants to take the Knights down takes them down honestly pretty easy, especially because their shields get worse if your gun is good. So yeah, because it's ion shield. So I'm not sure how I feel about that, but if anyone has tried this, has played this, let us know. Let us know your thoughts. I would love to know what people think about this or some of the other changes that they've done. I said, me personally, I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. I do want to play that way, but I just don't know if I'm going to think that you can do enough. And I don't know if there's a good spot for Knights other than, I have space. Yeah, so for a Knight, they're not modified by weapons, AP characteristics, normal. Instead, if the AP is -1 or worse, it's not modified. If your weapon's a -2 or 3, you decrease that by 1, my apologies, to a minimum of 6. And if it's 4 or worse, by 2. So some of the good Knights have like 3 up saves. If you're hitting with a 2 or a 3 AP, now you're a 4 up save. Hitting them for more, you are a 5 up save. So, I mean, they kind of always have some saves, but I don't know. So the missions. I described them because, again, I don't know if GW cares about me putting these up. So we'll describe them. You can find them around if you take a look. So they give us 3 missions. Dominate. So Dominate is a diagonal deployment mission. Actually, I believe I showed this in the other video. I'm sorry. It's a... moving that. So I have books here sitting in front of me, and the book just shifted. Was the problem that I just ran into. It is diagonal deployment. You're looking for essentially 24s along the side. So count 24, 24, and 30. Boom, that gives you a deployment. It works out to be nice numbers. They didn't do its 24-inch zone in the middle. They did 24 and 30 off the ends. There's 5 objectives, diagonal, so no objectives in your deployment zone in this case. You get 3 BPs for each uncontested objective during the game, 5 at the end. Keep in mind, uncontested means that you either have it by yourself, it is yours, and there's no opponent there at all, or you have twice as much objective points to take with than your opponent. So your scoring ability is twice as much. So we just looked a moment ago at tactical strength. I should say your tactical strength is at least twice as much. So that means if I have, say, 2 knights and you have a warlord or a war master standing there, it is your objective. However, if I have 3 knights, it's not uncontested, it's contested. Now, it still might be yours. You still may have it, but it does then count as contested. So you have to have enough stuff to have it. All right, that's the first mission. Breakthrough. They got these nice and simple. So this one, it is long edge deployment, 14 inches long edge. So that's a 20-inch dead zone in the middle then. You have 3 objectives through the middle, 2 in your own deployment zones. You get 3 VPs for the no man's land objectives, 1 for them in each. Oh, sorry, that's just the replacement. Sorry. You get 2 VPs for your own objective, 4 for the neutral, 8 for the one in the enemy. And it does mention uncontested for all of these as well. The last one is point of conflict. So this one's a triangle. So you're looking at, for this, they put it as a 16-inch zone in the middle. and then triangle back to your corners. Objectives are sitting in an H, and you are getting 5 points for the one at the center of the table, 3 points for the ones at the ends of the H's. So there's one in the middle, one's off, 3, 5s. And like I said, that 16 no man's land sitting in the middle. All right, so they give you some special missions for you to use. The other missions might honestly be fine as well, but makes sense to maybe go with their missions. Let's take a look at the secondaries that you get, though. So remember, you're going to roll 2 dice. You will take those results, and then you will pick one from this. So control the battlefield. It's 5 VPs for every quarter that you have at the end of the game, but the max amount that you could have is 3. All of the secondaries can get you up to 15 points. You have scan and survey. It's 3 VPs per objective marker that you ever controlled in the game. So you do have to denote which ones you've grabbed. There's always 5 objectives. Therefore, you could always get up to 15 if you've controlled them all at some point. It doesn't matter when. For supplies, you get an additional objective that will move around. It moves D6s. Let me get to it so I can check. Tell you the exact amount. I didn't want to write too much. You roll scatter, 2d6. If it's a hit, you don't move it. At the start of the second, each subsequent round, scatters again. So essentially, you pop it down round 1, scatters, every round scatters 2d6. You are looking at 5 VPs if it's no one's, 10 VPs if it's contested, and 15 if you are the one who owns it at the end of the battle. So it's going to go all over the place, but if it's yours alone at the end of the battle, there's your 15. A matter of honor. You pick a target for one of your Titans. It's 5 VPs if it was wounded, 10 if it was destroyed, but not by the Titan of yours that you chose, and 15 if it's destroyed by your special Titan. So you are going to nominate one of your opponent's Titans to fight with one of your Titans. 5 VP if it's injured, 10 if someone else takes it out, 15 if your particular Titan is the one that takes it out. And break their lines. You pick 3 Titans. Your goal is at the end of the game for them to be in the opponent's deployment zone, 5 points a pop. So when we take a look at these, let's say you roll them, what ones are you hoping for? Which ones do I think you have a better shot at or accomplishing and all? Obviously, it depends a bit on your list. Let's be honest. However, when I take a look at it, ones that I like, control the battlefield. You have some shots at getting at least some points out of that. So maybe you won't be able to grab all of the, or 3/4, but you'll probably get 1 to maybe 2 if you have some stuff left over. Scan and survey, I think, is actually really, really good because you can get those very early. And most of these missions, probably turn 1 or 2, you could be grabbing some of the objectives, at least a little bit that are a little closer to you. Either the ones in the H pattern that are closer, or the diagonal, some of it you might be a little bit closer, or there, maybe it's for everyone, but I think that's when you try to jump on early, grab the points, and then just see what you can do from there. That one feels like a probably safe 6 to 9 that you could get to. Fresh supplies is really, really random. It's going to move all over the place. If you don't have fast Titans, you don't know if you'll be able to chase it down. I like that one that it might help you decide where your opponent's going to go. So if it's scattering around, it's a little late game, and it's a little bit off to the side of your opponent, they might want to go that way just to make sure you don't hop on it for free. So that might be able to direct their actions a little bit, especially if the game is somewhat close, because they could be worried about, well, if I can get to it at the end of the game and I'm sitting there, especially if, say, it gets behind some terrain features that's covering a Titan, now it might be mine instead. And I might get 15, and maybe that's enough to win. Stand tall. My apologies. I missed stand tall when I read these. Stand tall. It's 10 VPs if you have half or more remaining. So is it half or more, or is it more than half? I'm sorry, more than 50%. Yeah, you have to have over 50%. 50% don't count. So if you have over 50% of the total points values of your army left. So it does it by points value. And 5 extra if you have a warlord or war master left, and they do not. That one, what I find is Titan games are super, super destructive. When Dan and I played, we didn't have that much left at the end. It's actually a really interesting battle report if anyone hasn't actually watched it, but we didn't have really much left at the end. And I feel that that's what's going to happen here as well. I think you're going to have a whole lot of stuff destroyed, which means stand tall could be really, really tough to get. maybe that 5 VP, especially if your opponent really didn't bring the big ones, or maybe only brought a big model or two, and you brought a lot. But I think that one's kind of tough. Matter of Honor, I think, is actually a great selection. You're going to get 5 VPs if you injure that Titan. The Titans don't naturally have ways that they heal. So you just have to go through the shields and put a single wound on it. Now you at least have 5 VP. I don't foresee much getting out of these missions unscathed. 10 if it's actually destroyed, and it won't matter who. So you're getting a lot of points just if you remove it at the end of the game. Let me see. Yeah, you're choosing the one that's agreed. It's the highest wounds characteristic is the one that you have to pick. So you don't get to pick the tiny ones, but you are choosing the biggest. Even if they have a War Master, it still might not be a bad thing, because at these higher points, you're probably going to have to fight them down anyway. That's maybe the only time I would really consider maybe not doing it if they have a War Master. If they have anything smaller than War Master, I'm absolutely taking this. Or if they have a War Master who's an Iconoclast, you know he's just going to be trying to rush across the field. You will have time to shoot at him. He's not going to be shooting at you in the same way. So that one I really like. I think that one's really, really strong. Again, if you have a War Master, maybe then I make more consideration. But otherwise, that's the one I want. And break their lines. I don't know how many Titans you're going to have left at the end, or how healthy you're going to be. And when you pick them, yeah, it is secret. Just checking. It is secret. So you're secretly picking 3. Some of your Titans are rather slow. They're not realistically going to get across the board, which means it's probably your smaller ones, which don't survive nearly as well. I feel really iffy about that one. So me personally, a Matter of Honor, I think, is my top choice. Again, if they have a War Master, maybe not, but that's sort of my top choice. Beyond that is probably Scan and Survey. If I get either of those two, I don't really probably care what the other one is. I'm taking them. If I get both of those, no War Master, I'm taking Matter of Honor. War Master, I'll take Scan and Survey. The only other one I probably really want to see is maybe Control the Battlefield for the end, or maybe Fresh Supplies because it's weird and interesting. But a lot of the ones that say you got to survive out to the end, I don't know if you're going to survive out to the end. This game is very, very, very destructive. So that's a little bit about what they do with Titans. So you're playing a game just purely with Titans. You're doing all of that. Good and bad of it. So there's a little bit of a good and bad here. All right, so here's a few of the problems I find with this. First problem I talked about, and we saw this as well, was that Warhounds, when you take things in units, Warhounds don't have the independent, which means you have to issue them the same exact order, whereas like your Knights actually do have independent in a lot of cases, so you can get some more order activations out of them, or vary up a little what they do. They still have to stay in coherency, but at least you have some choices there. Warhounds don't. And Warhound is a very big model to have to stay within 2 inches of everyone else. I don't know if I'd ever take them in groups. I'm not sure it's an advantage. There's, I guess, a little bit of an advantage because you would be firing with both of them before your opponent goes again. Same sort of thing you get in Titanicus. But having to keep them so close together, I think, can really just bottleneck you pretty bad. It makes it a little bit tougher, I found. In the game I played, I did that. I don't know if it was good to do that. It also means if the opponent is shooting at you, since you're not allowed to split fire, they are a formation together, so they can actually take both of them down. NGW didn't really talk. It took us a while to figure out exactly how we should do their shield saves and all of that with that. It's a little unclean, I find. So I do find that to be an oddity, and not necessarily in a good way. The other thing is, if you take a look at this, they say it's 6,000 point games. All right. 6,000 points is tons and tons of models. Your Warlords are only 600. Your Iconoclasts and all those, I want to say they're like 750 or maybe they're like 850, whatever they are. I have the book down there. I can't look at it right now. But either way, there's so many you need. So what I was doing before was I was looking at my army. What do I have like painted and ready? I do have a few other things. I have a Warbringer that's not put together, and I have like 2 more Warhounds, and I have the new box Warhounds. I have like a set of those. So I have like 3 more Warhounds I could actually assemble if I wanted to. But when I take a look at it, so I used Legion Army Builder. That's what this is, for anyone who doesn't know it. It's a great little builder to take a look through, put our stuff together. I'm going to use this since this is a freely available out there thing, and GW knows, everyone knows about it. It's the same way as like Battle Scribe. It's that sort of thing. It gives you, enough base information to work with, and then you can use that to supplement going through the books and all. But when we take a look at this, I put all my stuff together. There's 10 formations. Now, there is some engine killer that's not accounted for. It's about 70 points of engine killer, so we're into the 46s, but we're not even at like 4650. So we're still like 13 to 1400 points short of what they say to play. And this includes, like I said, put there, I have 2 Warhounds together just to make my life easier. 2 different Reavers with the loadouts as you see. And the only time a loadout costs you more is if it has engine killer. A Warlord with Sunfires and the APOC missiles. Another one, Bellicose, Macro Gatling Blaster, Paired Laser Blaster. So that guy's a little more expensive. He's an extra 40 points, so he's 640. What are we looking at? We're looking at the single Warhound. I didn't put down his loadout. It doesn't matter. He doesn't have engine killers. And then Knights. Knights either comes in 1, 2, or 3s. I have 4 of them, so I put double to Cerastus. Same thing with the Questores. Because I actually only have... Oh, no, actually I have... Okay, I can get a little further. I didn't realize I have 6 Questores. So I could go with this again, get another 360 for this. So we're starting to get up there now. So now with the engine killers, now we're probably looking at about 5,000 or right in that sort of range. We're still short. We're still realistically at least another 2 Titans or a Titan with some other little guys. The thing I'm finding is the amount of stuff you have to take to do this. The game still doesn't take forever to play. And that's because this is a faster sort of mode. So the game is still going to go pretty quick. However, you just have to have so many things. I was really surprised. They said obviously you can play at any points level. But if they're saying at 6,000, I would hope then that means that that's the way they balanced it. So they thought about that in terms of rules. From our game that was about 3,000, I found that stuff was going down reasonably quick. That stuff was really, really deadly. At higher points, that becomes much more of a thing. I think you start seeing some people doing a lot of first fires if they have the weapons that reach, and some stuff is probably just gun platforms. I would see it as my Warhound's goal is to take away your shields. So double Vulcan Mega Bolter type setups is really good. Remember, they are light AT, but they have shield bane, so they can destroy shields. And even then, if it goes to your Titan, once your shields are down, you might be on a 2-up save, but if I get enough through, because I have rapid fire, so my 6s are 2s, if I get enough through, I just have to make you roll dice. You're going to fail 1 in every 6. So if I make you roll 12 dice, you're losing 2 wounds. These things don't have tons of wounds. But I'm seeing, like, I would take a Warlord with long-range weapons. He's going to sit in the back who will never move. I feel you almost want to... It's almost a necessity at 6,000 points to have a War Master. And probably, unfortunately, not the Iconoclast, because I love the Iconoclast so much. But I probably want the one that shoots. Let's, what's his range? Where'd I put that book? There it is. My apologies, how to find the book. Actually, we can even pull it up in the builder. Actually, maybe I'll do it that way so we can reference it together. So, I'm going to take a look at the formation. I'm going to... Oh, sorry. Went to the wrong one. I want to the attachments. My apologies. Let's go take a look at that War Master. So the Iconoclast, I mean, he's great close combat. He's going to take out anything he wants. But the big thing is, he's for close combat. His biggest things are, his siege drill, really good minus and stuff like that. His engine killer weapon, but it's in reach. You have to get there. That's a big thing to try and actually get there. Whereas when we take a look at the heavy battle one, so his base gun, if you're fine with that, you're not worried about engine killer, or 4 dice each. He does have 2 of them. So that would be 8 dice. Or you can fire 4 dice on 2s at -4 if they're out of shields. Because remember, you now get to choose the order. Which means I can essentially more of guarantee that you're to the engine killer part if I fired something else first. 4 dice on 2s. And then you only have, with a -4, you effectively have a 6-up save, or you're taking 2 damage each. One full shot from these can take down almost anything in the game on reasonably good dice. On average, maybe not always, but on reasonably good dice, you're taking down anything short of itself. So I do honestly feel that the big points, I mean, they're worth a lot of points. The 750 points, like we said, they take the most objective spots. Their weapons are huge. It has tons of shields. It's 12 shields, so it's tough to get through even with the shield perspective. It kind of almost feels like they really want to get some of these done, or maybe they didn't play with a bunch of them. But to me, that 26-inch range or 16, probably first turn, I'd move up. And then on some of these missions, I'm already close enough from there on. If you're anywhere near me, I'm just first firing from now on. I'm going to fire first, and I'm going to take down whatever it is you were going to shoot at me instead, if I can. And then they still have a whole bunch of other guns, and I'm not going to go through all the other various guns that you can have on these guys. But I think that I don't know how I feel about the points. The points that they do for this, I think, just might be a little too much. I think 6,000 might be a little bit too crazy. I think you might find that often in the game, after about 2 turns, you might have like half the armies destroyed on both sides. Legitimately half. And then the rest of it, it's who has the best things left remaining. So part of that could be your terrain. If you have big terrain, or if you have very good terrain, that could help change this a bit. I'm not saying that your War Master should be able to hide anything, but your Warhounds should. You should have terrain that hides Warhounds entirely. You honestly should probably have some terrain that really hides Reavers as well. You shouldn't be able to see everything. So that's sort of my thoughts on this. I wanted to share some thoughts. I do want to go through this book. I'm going through it piece by piece because, as always, I talk for more. I want to do more depth than just like telling you what you see, because that's useful, but it doesn't really get you anywhere once you've seen it. And there's ways to, it's out there. Like I said, this Legion Builder, if you haven't used it yet, it's really a great app. Website, I should say, not an app, a really great website. It really helps you be able to take a look at everything. So, and then it's a really nice, they don't have the main rules from the book, so you still need the book. Absolutely makes sense. I would still absolutely get the book no matter what. I would never skip doing that personally. But I really do think this one is good. It gives you a nice sort of almost card look to the things, so that way you can actually get a good feel for them, especially for some of the stuff as you're trying to plan out. With this sort of game where you need lots and lots of models, I think it makes sense to really be able to plan it out. Then you grab the books, then you can read the fluff and go through all of that. So I do want to play this. I am excited to try it. For 6,000 points, though, I'm going to need to put together a few things that I haven't built yet. But I have a few other things to work on first, like Tomb Kings and my other smaller Imperialis and a whole bunch of other things. But we will, when we can, get you guys a 6,000 v 6,000 point to try out some of these missions, try out the game there. And if you have that much, you can also try Titanicus. Has a very different feel, has a much more chess to this one's, I would call checkers. Not that this isn't tactical, not that you don't have decisions, but there, it's a non-pre-measure game. The way you move is a lot more particular. The ways in which you shoot certain guns are only off of the actual front spacing of your model and all of that. So it's a lot more heavy in terms of the per item tactics, where this game is a lot more of making some good decisions and trying just to put forward a game plan and kind of adapting maybe a little bit more. So I see them as a little bit different. The other one's a lot more weighty. This one, though, and you would not want to play 6,000 points of that. You'll be there the entire day. That's unreasonable. Here, you can just bring your whole collection and have fun. And honestly, I think you're still going to be done in like 2 hours. Ours only take longer because when we record, we have to stop and talk about things and kind of get a little bit of a natural flow. All right, but that's the first part of this book. There'll be some other parts of this book. I'm going to be putting them out pretty soon. I also want to show off some models, but I'm going to probably make one video for all of that because this one already went long enough. All right, you'll see more Imperialis stuff. Hopefully in about another week or so, you'll start getting some more battle reports from us. And like I said, if you are somewhat in the local Jersey area, reach out. If you want to start recording some games, love to do so. All right. On behalf of everyone here at the show, then, has a good hobbying. It's a great gaming.